About 2 years ago, on December 31st, 2019, I was standing right here in this very living room when I collapsed into my then girlfriend, now wife's arms, crying tears of joy. Because in that moment, I had just paid my last student loan payment, making me 100% debt free. I went from $23,000 in debt down to zero in just 12 months, and I haven't owed anyone anything since. Now, why am I sharing this with you? Well, last week, my wife and I were talking about our finances and our plans for the future and how hard we've worked to get to where we are today. And somehow we ended up on the topic of things we'd like to and plan to purchase. Now, in the midst of that conversation, I told her word for word that I feel like I'm going to be hesitant towards spending and enjoying our money because all of this time I've gotten so used to saving and investing and aggressively attacking specific financial goals. Now, to no surprise, she also felt the same way. So this got me thinking and wondering if there was an explanation for why we are the way we are with money. And there is. It's called your personality. See, like almost everything else in life, our response to money is largely dictated by our personality, life experiences, and beliefs. And I've learned and have witnessed how we often stress the importance of financial literacy, like gaining an understanding of how money works and having the resources to make informed decisions. But one thing most people fail to consider is their money personality type and the influence and impact that has on their approach and emotional response to money. However, when you are aware of your money personality type, it can only help you make more informed decisions by strengthening your understanding of how money works for you. So today, I'd like to share what I've discovered by highlighting 7 distinct money personality types, their pitfalls if there are any, and the necessary adjustments you should consider making. Personality type number 1, the compulsive saver. This is the type of person who saves money endlessly, sometimes with no actual end goal in mind. They live a very frugal life and are conscious of every dollar they spend, most times down to the cent, and often believe that saving money is the only way to feel more secure in life. Like, forget relationships and experiences. As long as my bank account is growing significantly every month, then I'm good. Now, to be fair, part of me fits the bill of a compulsive saver. I wasn't always this personality type, but I believe my mind started to shift this way when I first started this financial journey 2 years ago and paid off all of my debts in 12 months. Now, the pitfalls of this personality are true for most compulsive savers. I can't speak for everyone, but from my experience, it's a mixture of fear and hesitation towards spending the money you've worked so hard to save and build. So you often don't spend anything and fail to enjoy the fruits of your labor. For example, you might choose to skip out on hobbies and activities that bring you happiness. Or you might choose to stay home instead of traveling, thus missing an experience of a lifetime. Not because you don't have the money, but because you don't want to spend the money. Now, what do you do if you're a compulsive saver? Well, I want you to remember something that I've had to remind myself of on this financial journey. It's all about moderation. See, we have to learn to find balance between saving money and enjoying life. So start thinking about your financial goals, your values, and where you see yourself in the future. And when that vision is clear, only then will you be able to use your money, savings, and investments in confidence and not shrink in the presence of fear that you might lose it or spend it irrationally. You're wiser than you're giving yourself credit for. Personality type number 2, the compulsive spender. This is someone who tends to spend money excessively on things they don't need. When they're in emotional distress or bored, their solution is to spend, especially for immediate gratification. And if their favorite store happens to have a sale going on, look out, because there's no telling how much they'll end up spending. Another thing to note is that this person is usually the outgoing type, meaning they love being around people, and as a result, they tend to spend more and sometimes offer to pay for and treat others for no particular reason. Now, the pitfalls of this personality type can range from minor overdraft fees on the checking account to having large amounts of debt if you're not careful. Compulsive spenders are often susceptible to spending money regardless of their financial situation. Debt doesn't matter, mostly. Price doesn't matter, mostly. If there's a will, there's a way, and they will find it. In addition to this bad habit, because at the end of the day, that's all this really is, this personality may even try to hide large purchases from their friends, family, or their spouse. And to be honest, when this happens, that's a telltale sign of a much bigger issue than spending money. Now, what do you do if you're a compulsive spender? Well, first, you have to remind yourself that buying things, especially with money you don't have, is not going to bring you lasting happiness. Contentment cannot be found sitting on the shelves of your favorite outlet store. And when we begin to trust this truth, only then can we start to make changes. First and foremost would be creating a budget. Doing this can help you gain control of your spending without making you feel limited and unable to enjoy life. Personality type number 3, the compulsive moneymaker. This is someone who believes that making more money is the secret to happiness. They spend most of their energy trying to make as much money as possible, seeking promotion after promotion, picking up a second job, job hopping in effort to make more money, doing whatever it takes to elevate their financial status, regardless of how much time that steals them away from other things and people in their life. They may also find pleasure in receiving compliments and recognition for their financial success. Now, see, the pitfalls of this personality type also have some upsides to them, depending on how you look at it. But it's up to you to decide what's most important to you because you can't have both. And that pitfall is that although compulsive moneymakers are on a strong path towards achieving financial freedom, they can also enter into dangerous territory if they start neglecting important relationships in their life. For example, working extended hours or on every single weekend instead of spending that time with loved ones can create a strain. So what do you do? Well, first, you have to recognize that there's more to life than money. And it's okay to work hard and build wealth. We all should strive towards improving our finances for the sake of our family's future. But that should never come at the expense of not enjoying your family in present moments. So if you have the money and you're not in debt, go on vacation with your family. Donate to an important cause, take a break, and enjoy life a little bit. Personality type number 4, the indifferent to money. So what makes someone indifferent to money? Well, this personality type is someone who rarely thinks about money. And the idea of creating a budget is borderline nauseating. This person feels strong in their belief that money shouldn't influence important decisions in life, and therefore doesn't allow money to influence their own decisions. Now, in all fairness of this belief, most people who are indifferent to money believe that they only need a modest amount of money to be happy, which is a healthy mindset. If you've been a part of this community for a while, then you're already familiar with the fact that I practice minimalism. And if this is your first time watching or listening to me, then that may be new news to you. However, just like the person who is indifferent to money, minimalism has similar principles in that you don't need a lot of stuff to be happy or to enjoy life. So in that regard, I would agree with my indifferent counterparts. But things can still get ugly if you're not responsible with your finances. So you should still be budgeting, spending with intention, saving for tomorrow, and investing for your future. So what should you do if you're indifferent to money? Well, even if you're financially comfortable, you should still make it a point to know things like where your money is going every month, your stance on debt, and your plans for future you when retirement rolls around. The last thing you want is financial stress later down the road because you failed to learn, know, and manage your money today. Personality type number 5, the free spirit. The free spirit is someone who identifies with a number of money personalities, the most common being the compulsive saver and spender, making them a saver splurger of sorts. Now, when I was preparing to share this conversation with you, I asked my wife which money personality type she believes she is. And her response was the free spirits-ish, because as I mentioned earlier, she's also a bit of a compulsive saver like I am. However, and she'll be the first to tell you, sometimes she has to remind me that it's okay to spend the money we worked hard to save and build. And I appreciate that because we balance each other out. Now, when it comes to the pitfalls of this personality type, it can be emotionally exhausting when the pendulum swings back and forth between compulsive spending and saving. This constant tug of war can often lead to stress and disappointment, regardless of which side you're currently swinging towards. So what do? Well, my best piece of advice for you is to not lose sight of your financial goals. Remember, it's okay to spend money and enjoy life, as long as you have the means to do so without accumulating excessive debt. But at the same time, you can't forget about your future self and the reasons why you're saving and investing. Personality type number 6, the gambler. This type of person shares common traits between moneymakers and spenders. They're often thrilled by the risk and promise of reward, so they're not necessarily afraid of losing it all because they're so fixed on the fact that they could win more. And just like compulsive spenders, much of their spending and gambling is done out of boredom. Now, the most obvious pitfall and the biggest risk is when gambling gets out of control and you begin to bet against more than just the extra $20 in your pocket. And this out of control behavior begins to threaten your retirement money, your assets like your home and car, non-retirement accounts, and more. Now, I'm giving an extreme example just to put this into perspective for you. I understand that most people know when to cut their losses and walk away, but not everyone does. And that's why I wanted to take the time to call that out. So, if you're a gambler, what should you do? Step one would be to do a bit of self reflecting and identify your true financial risk taking level. This is important to know so you don't cross over into the danger zones of gambling. Step two would be to automatically set money aside every month for savings in a separate account. That way, you have money saved before making financial decisions or taking risk. Personality type number 7, the worrier. It doesn't matter how much money you have, this personality type will constantly worry about losing it all at any given moment. This person sometimes lacks financial confidence and or the ability to fully manage their money. They're constantly obsessing over worst case scenarios instead of following very practical money principles, like saving an emergency fund and paying off debt in order to reduce their monthly payments, thus allowing them to use that money for a better purpose. Now, just like the other 6 personalities, there are a few pitfalls to being a constant worrier. See, it's smart to be aware of what could happen if you don't prepare for your future. The last thing you want to do is be that person who wanders around oblivious to real life. So I get it. But letting worry and anxiety eat away at your happiness in the present moment is never a good thing. So if you're a worrier, I want to encourage you to focus on understanding where your financial worries are coming from. So talk to someone you trust, your spouse, a friend, a professional if you need to. It doesn't matter. The only thing I ask is that those conversations are honest, open, and vulnerable. So choose someone that you can be all of those things with. That way you can begin to face your truth and make adjustments in your mindset in a safe space that you feel comfortable in. Now, as I prepare to land this plane, I have a question for you. Which personality type are you? Comment below and let me know. And as you're doing that, I want you to remember something. As individuals, we all have our own beliefs and emotions about money, which are mostly shaped by our life experiences. I mentioned that earlier. But regardless of which personality type you are, the universal message I like to leave you with is this. What works for someone else may not work for you. And what works for you, you can't expect everyone to understand. So as long as you're at peace financially, when you lay your head down at night, then that peace is all that matters. Keep growing, keep learning, and always stay true to you. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.